Okay, so today we're going to start with some Danish. We're going to start learning about laminated doughs. There are 3 different kinds of laminated doughs. There's puff dough, Danish, and croissants. This one is Danish. We're going to start off with the butter. Just a small amount of butter. And that's going to go inside the mixer. We're going to put the sugar inside. It's got yeast. Now yeast has 2 things. You want to make sure that salt stays away from it because it kills it. And the sugar will feed it. So we want to make sure that salt goes in last. So the next thing we have is eggs. And we have milk. Milk is for richness. This is a rich dough. There are 2 types of dough, lean and rich. Next thing we're going to put is pastry flour and bread flour. We need bread flour for stability. And we're going to mix this for about 5 minutes. We want to develop the gluten, set that where we're able to use the Danish and it has some stability. We want to start on speed 1. We want to start this and mix it and just make sure all ingredients are incorporated. As soon as it's incorporated, we're going to move it to 2nd speed. Now we're going to mix for about 5 minutes to develop the gluten. Adding the salt. We're using the dough hook today. We want to develop the gluten inside this dough. And you may hear a little bit of banging, but that's the machine's doing its job. Okay, our dough is now ready. So what we want to do is we want to stop the machine. You want to lower it down. You want to look inside, and you see the development of the gluten, the strands of the gluten inside. At this point, I have a sheet pan ready. And what I'm going to do is put a little flour down. I'm going to get this out and just place this in. Now, the dough has to relax. It has to go in the cooler for about 30 minutes. At the same time, I need a butter block that's going to be locked inside for lamination to give me the layers to make it flaky and nice flavors and layers. So this goes inside. It's a nice dough, nice and soft. We're going to flatten this out a little bit. Just get your hand with some flour on it. Flatten it out. That'll make it easier to roll out when we need it. So at this point, we'll put it in the cooler and put it away. So now we're going to make the lock-in. Lock-in, we want to use a paddle. We have to make the flour and the butter. We have to cream that together. We're going to put that, we're going to chill that with our dough for the same amount of time. So everything has to be the same temperature. So the paddle, we want to make sure that we're creaming. We want to get a little bit of air, but not too much. We just want to make it smooth. Okay, put that on. The flour goes inside. And then the butter. This goes together, speed 1, just until it's incorporated. That's all we're doing. At this point, I have a bowl, and I have the bench scraper just to get it out of the bowl nicely. As soon as that's incorporated, we're finished. I'll scrape it down. On the sides is up too high. I have to make sure that flour is inside. And it's really important that that's all mixed together. Okay. At this point, I can scrape it inside here. Take it off with my spatula. Inside. And that is the butter for the lock-in. Okay, now that we've made our dough, let it rest for 30 minutes. Now we want to make sure we put the lock in. That's the butter mix that we mix with the flour. Okay, we need to roll this out. Remember, make sure that it's loose and it's not sticking to the table. We want to roll this out to the half sheet pan size. Okay, make sure you keep turning it. This way you know that it's not sticking to your table. It's a nice soft dough, so I'm able to shape it wherever I want. A lot of times people have trouble in the corners trying to figure out how to make it into a rectangle or a square. Just push it back in, and then use that extra amount here and build it out. Okay, again, the same thing. Bring it back together and start to shape it. And at this point, I can get my perfect rectangles. Now with this one, it's really important that you get the rectangles and you get a perfect shape. I'm going to use this same paper that I had it on. I want to make sure that I get it to that shape. A little bit longer. What happens, we're making layers in here. Thousands of layers, hundreds of layers. So if one area doesn't have the butter in it, it's going to make a difference. It's not going to come up the same. It's not going to rise the same. Okay, so at this point, I have this all set. Flour comes off. I need to put 2/3 of the amount with butter. So this is my 2/3 of amount. I got my paper all lined. Okay, and I'm going to just mark it right here. Right there's a line. Now I want to keep it inside of this area. So this right here, just a little bit, I need to be able to seal it and get the butter right inside there. Get all the flour off. I can use a dry brush if I need to get that off. I'm going to put some gloves on in case I need to use my hands to get the butter spread out. And then now I'm just going to start using it and spreading this whole thing, an even layer of butter. In Danish, there's approximately 30% of the butter inside of the weight of the dough. So it's lots of butter to give us lamination. Get all that butter out. Now this is considered the lock-in. Remember, there's going to be 3 turns. The lock-in does not count as a turn. Okay, so we're just locking in the butter. And then we're going to do 3 turns, which I'll demo next. As soon as this sets for another 30 minutes. It's not a quick process. We want to make sure that we let this dough relax in between. And again, keeping inside the edges. I need to seal the edges so this butter does not leak out. The problem is going to be that if I get this too cold, when I'm rolling it out, the butter comes out, or too warm, the butter will come out. And then I have a mess. Okay, at this point, I can just use my hand to spread it out. Bring it right to the edge. Make it even. Now we're going to do a 3-fold. There's 2 different folds. There's a 3-fold and a 4-fold. This we need to do 3 3-folds. Okay, so now I need to bring this third over and then this third on top of it. So this is the side that doesn't have any butter. Okay, this comes over the top. And then this one goes over the top. Okay, make sure the edges are even. And I want to seal it in. I'm sealing in the butter. Pressing it. If it gets too warm at this point, I want to make sure I put it back in the cooler. If any butter comes out whatsoever, I put it back in the cooler. If it gets a small amount of butter coming out here, I'm going to put a little flour on it and put it away. Again, make sure it's not sticking. And I need to roll this back out to this half sheet pan. Again, this is the lock-in. It does not count as a turn. That's very important to remember. Right here. And then we let this rest for another 30 minutes. Okay, so at this point, we've locked in our dough. We've made everything. We now need to do the turns. When we talk about the turns, the first one, remember, was a lock-in, and that doesn't count as a turn. So we want to make sure that our dough comes out nicely. We floured the pan. We got to make sure that this flour comes off. What's going to happen if we don't have this flour come off, it's going to go together and then it's going to start to pull apart. So the Danish would have a separation of the layers. So we want to make sure that most of this flour is off. We want to put the nice side down, because we're going to fold this inside. So we're going to start folding this a third and bring the other side up. At this point, you want to face that opening away from you. We're going to press this down. And now we need to roll it back out. Now the reason it's called a turn is we've turned it. We had it this way. Now we need to have it the long way. So we're rolling this only to the width of the sheet pan. And now we're going to go to the length. So we're developing the gluten as we do this. Got to make sure that it does not stick. Put a little flour down if you need it, but don't add too much flour. Should not see the flour. It should just keep it from sticking to the rolling pin. And rolling it out. So that's considered our first turn. Now, what happens in the bakeries is if we're doing these and maybe the next shift is coming in, we want to make sure that we mark it somehow. So the way we do that is we do an indentation. So the indentation 1, 2, or 3, we're going to do 3 turns. This one is our first turn, to signify that if someone comes in after me, that they know that I'm at 1 turn and they can start right then and there going in the next turn. So at this point, we need to let this rest for 30 minutes. Goes right back in the cooler. Okay, so now we're into shaping the dough. Now pastry, you've got to be exact. So to make each piece the same size, you have to measure it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure, I've got a straight edge here. I've measured it for 5 inches. I've done 2 marks so that I can definitely get a straight line. And this is just a pizza wheel, a dough cutter. You want to take this dough off, put it here. We'll put this one away. Okay, I'm going to egg wash the edge right here. I'm going to egg wash the top edge. I'm going to do a filling down the middle. Just a nice even line, and I'm going to fold it over. Then I need to make the lines. So at this point, what I can do is I can make this and I can cut it about every 1/2 inch, or instead of doing it that way, we have a tool, the bear claw cutter. With this, all you do is put it in here and just roll it. Okay, that's it. It makes the nice lines, everything's all set. At this point, bear claws are 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have to cut right at 5. And if we want to make smaller ones, it would be only 3. So 5, 2, 3, 4, 5. And there's the baby bear claw. Okay. Now, in the industry, what we'll have is a whole lineup of this, and we'll have like 2 people doing this. What we'll do is we'll egg wash the whole entire thing. And then we have the almonds. And then all we do is pick it up and put them down. Okay, so that's that. At this point, we're going to put them right on a sheet pan. And when you shape these, you pick it up, you put your finger in here, and all you do is bend it. So bend it and pinch it, and that's a bear claw. Pick it up, hold it, and bend it. And we just do a whole bunch of these. Pick it up, same thing. Put it down, and the little guy usually just stays straight. Just open his fingers. And that you have a bear claw. Now we're going to start making some snail Danish. And right here is an example of the snail Danish. We're going to cut this a little bit larger rectangle. Okay, at this point, again, get that flour off. All we're going to do with this is add a little bit of water and cinnamon sugar. That's going to have a little flavor inside. Little surprise for the guests. And then we can add any kind of fruit topping or cheese, some streusel, any of that. This is a cinnamon sugar mix. Just goes on half. I'm going to put enough that you see it. And now that water on the other side is going to come down. And that goes together. Okay, at this point now I want to roll it in a little bit. Make sure it stays inside, doesn't open up on me when I'm rolling it. And if it starts to stick, make sure we put a little flour down. Make sure it moves around. Okay, rolling out. We want to cut this, make an even layer at the end. We want to cut this about 1 inch. Okay, when cutting these, if you angle this a little bit, it's a lot more steady. It doesn't wobble on you. You can also use a ruler and keep moving it. Okay, when you get a few of these cut, move these out of your way. So we're going to just run our finger down this and stretch it just a little bit. Then we're going to start twisting it. At this point, if I hold one side and roll the other, it starts to twist up. Okay? At this point, I can make a snail. I want to tuck that piece in, and that's a snail Danish. We'll proof that, and then we'll push in the center and we'll put the fruit filling. Again, stretch it really quick, twist it, twist it up. If we twist it and start curling each end, we've got the one like right here. We put 2 different flavors. Same thing, twisting. Okay, we're going to do this one right here now. And all that is just making a little S, tucking one in, tucking the other one in. If you want to do the one that's like this, same thing, twist it. Just curling it in so it equals. So you can put 2 flavors here. Biggest thing to remember when you're doing the Danish dough is to keep it cold. Everything has to stay cold. You don't want the butter to melt. What's going to happen when the butter starts to melt is everything comes out and it bakes and it's all flat. It doesn't give you the nice layers. Okay, now we're going to do some apple Danish. And that's this one right here. Just got a lattice top on it. So with this one, we need a circle cutter. It's this right here. We need to roll out some bases. Then we're going to put some apple filling inside. Now I've got a couple options here. I can put some streusel on the bottom and then put apple filling on top. Or I can just put the apple filling on. Okay, whichever I do, it's going to need an egg wash around the outside so the top layer will stick. Okay, so right there in the center, I have an egg wash now. I'm going to go around the outside. Has to stick together. This is like the glue. Okay, the next one, I have to make the top. This is another pastry tool. It's a lattice cutter. Okay, with this, what I have to do, cut a small portion, put it on. I hang on to it on the one end, and I gently roll. And hope that it doesn't stick. Okay, at that point, what we do is open it up. Okay, then we're going to cut circles out of this and place it right on top. Cut another circle. And press it down so that it attaches at the edge. And the last one. And that's all that one is. These go right on to the thing, the sheet pan, and they get proofed. And we move on to the next one. Next, we're going to make a cheese Danish. That's this one right here. It's a pocket. So we're going to use another pastry tool. It's called an expandable cutter. Okay. At this one, it's set for 3.5 inches. So we're going to make 3.5-inch squares. Coming over here to the dough, you want to have even pressure. That's the biggest thing with this, so that it does cut through everything. It just gives us a little more time and a little faster. So go both directions. And then we might have to go back and touch up and make sure that everything is cut with our pizza cutter. So I can see this one was a little bit light. So you just got to make sure that these squares come off. Okay, with this, we get all the scrap dough out. And the scrap dough can be used for monkey bread, where all you do is take the dough, mix it up into balls, and put it in butter and cinnamon sugar, and put it right into a pan. Okay. With this one, all you're going to do is put a line down the middle of cheese filling, a little bit of egg wash, push one side over, the other side, and push your finger in. Okay, right there. That goes on our pan. And then we just keep doing the same thing. Nice cheese filling down the center. Egg wash a few of them. One side, and then the other. And that's your cheese pocket. Now we're going to finish the Danish. We want to proof it approximately 30 minutes. You want to just let it relax. And then we're going to press the centers. And then we're going to put some filling inside. I've got cheese, apricot, and raspberry. Now I can do different ones, different layers, about that much. You don't want to put too much inside, especially the raspberry and the apricot. What's going to happen, it's going to start to burn. It's going to leak off the side. When these come out of the oven, we can put an apricot glaze on them, and then they're finished. They bake for about 12 minutes approximately. I can do a double layer, put the cheese, and then do the dot in the center. And then these right here, all I'm going to do is a couple lines of stuff. And that'll bake up right around it. And there you have it. Those are all set. They go right in the oven. Okay, here you have it. 4 techniques. Fresh Danish right out of the oven.